We talk about the deep state. We talk about the globalists. Inflation versus deflation.
Well, I mean,
Here at Mar-a-Lago.
I'm baffled that this isn't front page news.
Do you guys support a specific political party, or do you dislike both of them?
Oh, it worked like a charm on you guys.
Let's go, Brandon. Fascist! Fuck you, fascist! Fuck you, fascist! Fuck you, fascist!
Fascist out of DC! Oh, fascist! Millionaires, what do you DC! Fascist out of DC! Fascist out of DC! Fascist out of DC! Don't engage with them! Fascist out of DC!
No, back up, people. Don't engage with them.
Fascist out of DC! Fascist out of DC! Fascist out of DC!
Rob's laugh. Madness, right? Like, so I don't know. I think they're paid. I think that's the last scraps of USAID money just getting thrown around. I mean, because I don't know how anybody would have known about this thing, and they all got these fake looking signs that say like Elon's a con, blah blah blah, whatever. But how do we spell that word? What word are we talking about? LMG. Capital on DC. Man. But yeah, so that happened last night. In addition to that, we got some good news this morning. We got the news that Joy Reid is no more at MSNBC. Let's take a look at this. They're saying MSNBC canceled Joy Reid show. I mean, nobody saw that coming, right? Let's see. MSNBC cancels Joy Reid show as part of overhaul under new administration. Oh, wow. Who's the new administration? I did not even know about that. MSNBC is canceling Joy Reid's evening news show as part of the network's overhaul under the new presidential administration. New presidential administration, not the new show administration. Got it. She's hosted the Readout on MSNBC since 2020, discussing political news and events. Reid has anchored the Reid Report and AM Joy for the network in the past. The network declined to comment on the changes. Simone Sanders Townsend, Michael Steele, and Elisa Menendez, who currently host the network's The Weekend, will now be anchoring in Reid's former 7 p.m. slot, sources at MSNBC say. The source emphasized that the changes are not only going to impact Reid's show. Jen Psaki will reportedly be anchoring one of the week's primetime hours. Okay, so Psaki's still there. We don't love that. Alex Wagner tonight, blah, blah, blah. We don't care about that. The changes come just 1 month after Rashida Jones said she would be stepping down from MSNBC. Rebecca Cutler, who previously served as Senior Vice President of Content Strategy, replaced Jones. Cutler, a 20-year veteran and then MSNBC leaders, said that the year ahead was going to be both exciting and challenging. Well, yeah, I mean, they're hemorrhaging money, and they probably got a good amount of money from stuff like USAID, so not shocking. I'm curious to see how long they could afford to pay Rachel Maddow. Was it like $24 million a year to do one show per week, which definitely doesn't make them $24 million a year in return. I'd be shocked if it does. Like, what is it? The vast majority of YouTube content creators get more views than shows like MSNBC and CNN. So I wouldn't call that a sustainable model, if you know what I'm saying. Let's see. Should we go to... Yeah, let's go to Ilhan Omar next and get this out of the way. And then we'll talk about her past. Ilhan.
These people are just...
Now, how's this for somebody who immigrated to the country?
These people are just idiots. I really, I'm at the point where it's become really hard to have an intellectual debate with any of these people, because the level of stupidity that they are displaying every single day is frankly embarrassing, not just in Congress, but as Americans. And the fact that these people are allowed to say just the most ridiculous things tells you that the dumbing of the United States has arrived, because how else do we get a Trump presidency again?
Oh.
These.
All right, so simultaneously calling Americans dumb and simultaneously saying that you don't know how they're allowed to speak, and then you're making the claim that you find it harder and harder to debate them. Ilhan, when have you ever put yourself in a difficult debate in your life? Like, I know firsthand that the PBD podcast has invited her multiple times, never responded to us, okay? Just like most of the other liberal politicians will not respond to us. So before you go out and say that you find it hard to debate people, how about you actually debate people who disagree with you, all right? First and foremost, like, can you start there? That seems like a reasonable thing to ask. And I mean, in addition to that, she's got a weird history. So let's just go to Grok, keep it unbiased. Allegations about Ilhan Omar and brother entering the the country. I thought I heard that she like married her brother or something weird. So here we go. There have been persistent allegations claiming that Representative Ilhan Omar married her brother, Ahmed Nursaid Elmi, as part of an immigration fraud scheme to help him enter or remain in the United States. These claims first surfaced in 2016 during her campaign for the Minnesota state legislature and have been recirculated by various conservative outlets, commentators, and political figures over the years. The core of the accusation is that Omar, who came to the U.S. as a Somali refugee in 1995 and became a naturalized citizen in 2000 at age 17, wow, she's older than I thought, allegedly married Elmi in 2009 to assist him in obtaining legal status in the U.S. Critics point to the timeline of her marriages. She entered a faith-based marriage with Ahmed Hirsi in 2002, not legally registered, legally married Elmi in 2009, while still reportedly involved with Hirsi, and later divorced Elmi in 2017 before legally marrying Hirsi in 2018. Some have suggested that the sequence, along with deleted social media posts purportedly showing familiarity between Omar and Elmi, indicates Elmi might have been her brother, and the marriage was a sham to secure him a green card or student visa. However, no definitive evidence has emerged to substantiate these claims. Omar has consistently denied that Elmi is her brother, calling the allegations absurd and offensive and disgusting lies due to Somalia's civil war and the resulting lack of reliable records confirming familial relationships through official documentation is challenging. Investigations by outlets like the Minneapolis Star-Tribune have noted inconsistencies in Omar's personal history, like overlapping addresses with Elmi and Hirsi, or filing joint tax returns with Hirsi while legally married to Elmi, but found no conclusive proof that Elmi is her sibling or that fraud occurred. The FBI reportedly reviewed the matter in 2020, meeting with a source in Minnesota, but no public findings or charges have resulted. The allegations have been fueled by circumstantial details, such as claims from a Somali community leader to the Daily Mail in 2020 that Omar admitted privately to marrying her brother for immigration purposes. Yet these remain unverified anecdotes. Immigration experts have also pointed out that siblings can sponsor each other for residency under the U.S. law, reducing the need for fraudulent marriage. If Elmi were indeed her brother, additionally, Elmi's return to London in 2011, just 2 years after the marriage, raises questions about the supposed intent to secure permanent U.S. status. In short, while allegations persist, blah, 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 President Trump reinforced them, okay, whatever. So that's out there. That's one thing. And we brought up the question the other day, how did Minnesota become like a hotbed for people immigrating here as refugees from the Middle East? And I don't know. I have not looked into that since we spoke about it on Friday, because yesterday was CPAC day, but still something I'm very interested about. And I don't know if you guys know anything about that, but if you do, point me in the right direction so we could get to the bottom of that. Do you guys have any thoughts or theories or speculation on why Minnesota, of all places, became a hotbed? LMG, let's see. LMG says that makes me sick. I know, it makes me sick too, LMG. No appreciation for what America does Ilhan Omar have. I mean, PBD said in his speech at CPAC, thing that makes America different than any other country in the world, we are the only country in the world who has both undeniable rights to free speech and undeniable rights to carry firearms. Other countries say that they do, but we're the only country, I don't know if you know this, we're the only country that has freedom of speech in its constitution, but also does not have any exceptions to it, like hate speech. Every other constitution, or every other country, I should say, has a yeah, but clause saying that hate speech is not allowed and you can be arrested for it. So that's just a convenient way of saying, yeah, free speech is not exactly legal. We can still arrest you if we do not like what you're saying, because we know that the government can classify anything as hate speech. So if that exception is there, then that is the absence of free speech. What's up, Steve P? My man, Steve P. What's up, Denise? Any theories on why Minnesota became the hotbed for Middle Eastern refugees? I'm really curious about this one. Really, really curious about this one. While we're letting those thoughts and opinions and comments flow in, I will jump on to the next outrageous thing that we saw in the media today, which is Zelensky talking about how he does not owe the U.S. a single thing. So let's hear out this goon.
Я знаю, що у нас було 100. І це факт. Я не збираюся визнавати 500. Хто б що не говорив, як би ми не спілкувались. При всій повазі, ще раз, при всій повазі до партнерів, але, я стійко стою, тому що це правдива ситуація. Абсолютно ми праві. І друга ситуація, якщо чесно, навіть 100 мільярдів я не готовий фіксувати. Поясню чому. Тому що ми не маємо визнавати гранти як борги. Подобається це чи не подобається? Я домовлявся з Байденом і домовлявся з Конгресом Сполучених Штатів Америки. Я вдячен Конгресу. Це була присутність двох партій і підтримка. Знаю.
All right, so he is under the belief that this was a gift or a grant, not a loan. So again, let's stand biased. Let's ask Grok what the circumstances of this loan or grant were. Did the Biden, or let's just say, did America give Ukraine aid as a loan or a grant where the money was not expected to be returned? The United States has provided Ukraine with a mix of aid, primarily in the form of grants not expected to be repaid, though some portions have been structured as loans. Since Russia's invasion in 2022, Congress has approved over $174 billion in total assistance to Ukraine, encompassing military, economic, and humanitarian support. The vast majority of the state, particularly military assistance, has been given as grants, meaning Ukraine is not obligated to pay them back. For instance, with the military aid, which includes equipment like tanks, artillery, and munitions, has largely been provided through programs like the Presidential Authority to Transfer U.S. Stockpiles and the Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative. These transfers, totaling in the tens of billions of dollars, are grants that draw from the U.S. inventories or fund new purchases from American manufacturers with no repayment required. About $44 billion in security assistance alone has been documented as grants by the United States, by the State Department, aimed at bolstering Ukraine's defense without financial strings attached. However, some economic support has been structured differently. In April 2024, Ukraine's Security Supplemental Appropriations Act, roughly 7.9 of the $61 billion package was designated as a loan for economic aid and to sustain Ukrainian government services like law enforcement and pensions. This shift to a loan format came from pressure as Republicans, including Donald Trump, who suggested aid should be repayable. The legislation includes provisions allowing the president to forgive these loans through forgiveness required congressional approval, specific conditions to be met, blah, blah, blah. All right, so in practice, most of the money never leaves the U.S. military aid funds companies to produce weapons or replenish stocks, while even direct budget support around $30 billion since 2022, often framed as non-repayable by Ukrainians unless reclassified. Experts note that even when loans are involved, historical precedents like World War II, lend-lease, short repayment can be deferred indefinitely or forgiven, especially in wartime contexts. All right, yeah, but I'm glad they brought up World War II because even in World War II, socialist demon FDR, even that was a loan. Like, fun fact, the vast majority of the reason why the U.S. got rich is because of how much money was transferred to it in World War I and World War II, right? So literally, World War I, these countries need money to fight Germany, whatever. Okay, so they take out a loan from America, turn around, use that money to pay America to build them things, right? Because we had the biggest industrial base. All right, so they were like we were getting double paid. We had the loan, got the loan taken from us, and then that money was being used to buy things from us that they needed to buy. So that's why by the end of World War II, like 90% of the gold in the world was in the United States. Like, it is ridiculous how rich we were at the end of World War II. Like all the money in the world had piled up and made its home in the United States. And that is, I think, that like one of the biggest reasons for this shift towards globalism. Like the whole philosophy behind globalism is like you have to tear down the power and dominance of the United States to create like a more equal playing field for the rest of the world, so that it's easier to drag the United States into this globalist system. Because, you know, once we get a nationalist president at the reins, then it's impossible for them to go forward with their agenda. Like, look at all these big, bad, powerful institutions like the WEF, WHO, the UN. Look how they cower to the president when the president isn't there just to be a designated ass kisser, right? So all the power lies within the people of the United States. And I mean, we haven't used that power really to elect strong presidents. I mean, they set up this ridiculous system where they only allow the people that they feel comfortable with to get through to even get into the election. But Trump circumvented that because of his, like, money's not the only thing. It's his charm, his media savvy, his ability to just create headlines to trigger people to the point where the people who hate him can't help but speaking about him. So just legitimately sent by God for this mission. But anyway, the point being with this, I don't know, since this was stupidly promised as a grant and not a loan, should we kind of flip that around now? So, like, we're not asking them to come up with money to pay us. We're telling them, like, hey, we helped you out here. It was a very generous administration, but they didn't exactly speak for the people there. Like, the people in Congress, their job is to be a representative. We don't live in a democracy. We live in a constitutional republic. That means that we have representatives for the people to say what the people want. But I don't ever remember being asked if I wanted to just give over this stupid amount of money to Ukraine for a war that NATO caused with NATO expansion, right? I don't think you guys were ever asked. I would say 99.9% of people in the country were never asked for that, right? Okay, so yeah, I'd say under those circumstances, we could contort this into something where we could say, like, yeah, okay, you don't have to give us back physical cash, but give us something that is equal to this value that we gave you, so it's not just a wealth transfer, right? And that's why we were talking about precious resources. Like, let's look up countries with the most valuable valuable natural resources. All right, so Russia's number one. Let's see if Ukraine's even in the top 10. Russia 1, United States 2. Then you got Saudi Arabia, Canada, Iran, China, Brazil, Australia, Iraq, Venezuela. Ukraine does not even make the top 10. Let's see. Yeah, look at Russia with 75 trillion. So Mike Benz brought up an interesting theory with this thing that's going on with Russia and Ukraine. He believes that the deep state wanted to drag Russia into a war that basically depleted Russia, and that was the way to tap into Russia's natural resources. So, like, I'm reading this series of fascinating books right now for the episode that I'm working on, that talks about how the richest person in the world in the early 1900s was the Tsar of Russia, right? So that was like, imagine like a trophy fish for international bankers, for the globalists, for like these Rothschild type of people. They're like, look at that family right there. They have far more money than anybody in the world. How do we take them down and extract that money from that country, because the czars, they hated the international bankers. That was actually why Russia helped America during the Civil War, because Russia and America were the only big countries who knew the nonsense of the central bankers, that knew about their shenanigans, or at least were not yet victim to it. Because once you fall victim to it, it's hard to pull yourself out of it. And at the time of the Civil War, we had been 30 years removed from the grips of the central bank, as a thank you to Andrew Jackson. But then they clapped back by starting the Civil War. That's a whole long and deep explanation. I mean, we could talk about that another time, of how the central bankers got America into the Civil War. But then at that point, they were planning on having, they had British troops lined up at the northern border of America. They had French troops lined up at the southern border of America, and they're going to invade America as the Civil War was going on. But Russia pulls up to the shores of the United States and says, hey, Lincoln, just say the words and we are ready to go. Fuck these international bankers, right? So they put England and France on notice, hey, this is not going to be the easy conquest that you think it's going to be. We will die on this hill, right? So Russia saved our asses during the Civil War. And that was largely because the Russian Tsar knew about the shenanigans, the sick, twisted, evil things that fall into letting the central bankers, the international bankers, lend you money. That's really what it's all about. They wanted to lend governments money to have them by the balls. The Louisiana Purchase, I know I'm going on a tangent here. The Louisiana Purchase, the whole reason Napoleon sold this territory to the United States, I'll show it to you quick, because it's not just Louisiana, right? The whole reason he sold Louisiana to the United States is because he did not want to, he did not want to borrow money from the Rothschilds, from the central bankers, or from the international bankers anymore. Because that just makes you a slave to them. So if you don't know about the Louisiana Purchase, this is all the territory we got with that. And Napoleon wanted to stay away from the international bankers so badly, he was willing to sell that for, I believe, $14 million at the time. Pretty good ROI. Now, to get back out of the rabbit hole and back into what we were talking about. Yeah, so Russia, by far the most natural resources. Mike Benz thinks that. See, it's the weave right there, practicing the weave. Mike Benz believes that this whole thing, the obsession with Russia, was to get our hands on these natural resources. And that's another reason maybe they hated Putin since the beginning of time. There was never a point in time where it seemed that our government was going to try to make things work with Putin, to try to make it a decent relationship at the very least with Putin. So it seems like something went away from the plans that were intended, because after the Soviet Union collapsed, the oligarchs sort of took over in a corporatocracy type thing, or corporatism type of thing. So we propped them up and we were hey, we'll help you get so rich, no question about it, but just do whatever we say. Then Putin's whole rise to power had to do with fighting the oligarchs, and he's putting them on blast so many times. They showed up dead a lot of the time. Something like 20 oligarchs been mysteriously killed in the last 4 years. That's just the last 4 years. I bet you 50 something oligarchs have mysteriously died since Putin's been president. And it's probably a conservative number. Let's see where Ukraine ranks on this list of natural resource value. Ukraine, nowhere to be found. Ukraine. Here it is. Damn it, freaking paywall. All right, do it this way. Countries with the most uranium. Here we go. Oh, no, that's right. It was Kazakhstan that has a shit ton of uranium for some reason. Yeah, look at this. I don't want to totally divert, but yeah, bizarre. Kazakhstan has like 50% of all the uranium in the world. So what does Ukraine have? What makes Ukraine valuable? Or unique might be a better word. I saw that in the search engine. Ukraine is unique due to its geopolitical position as a crossroads between Europe and Asia, giving it rich cultural blend. Fertile land. Ukraine boasts some of the world's most fertile soil, known as the Chernozyms, which significantly contributes to its position as a leading grain exporter. Most valuable assets. All right. And this is where we are going to start using Grok. Elon Musk said the other day, Grok's going to be a search engine, and it's going to replace Google search engines. So that's what we're going to do right now. Let's ask Grok, what are Ukraine's most valuable assets? All right. And I 100% use it this way. I use Grok or ChatGPT as my search engine these days. I don't even know why I started trying to do it on there for that. Maybe just for charts. Ukraine's most valuable assets stem from its rich natural resources, strategic geopolitical location, and agricultural prowess, which collectively make it a significant player on the global stage. Here's a breakdown of what stands out. First, Ukraine is endowed with an abundance of critical minerals and rare earth elements. It holds some of the world's largest reserves of titanium, iron ore, and manganese, alongside substantial deposits of lithium, graphite, uranium, gallium. These resources are vital for industries like aerospace, electronics, defense, and green energy. All right, think batteries for electric vehicles or components for solar panels. Estimates vary, but the total value of these mineral deposits often cited in the trillions of dollars, which with some placing it between 10 trillion and 26 trillion. The country's geological diversity spanning 117 of the 120 most widely used minerals. You know what just occurred to me? So, all right, sorry, I have to go way back to what we were just doing. All right, so how is it that I have to go back to that chart that we were on? Get out of here, Joy Reid. Countries the most valuable natural resources. Blah. Come on. All right, so this chart right here. How is it that? All right, so the US GDP is about 30 trillion. We have 45 trillion of natural resources under our feet. Russia's GDP is 4 trillion. That's it. And they have 75 trillion of natural resources. Like, talk about living like a caveman. What are you doing? Why isn't Russia using their natural resources? It could be imagine back in the day when Russia and Ukraine were combined with each other. So that's like $100 trillion worth of natural resources. Why? Oh, let me go back to Grok for this one. Let's see if this. Nope. Why is Russia's GDP only 4 trillion, yet it has 75 trillion of natural resources? That's a brain buster for you. Russia's GDP estimated around 4 trillion in purchasing power terms as of recent World Bank data, blah, blah, blah. Annual economic activity within the country, essential values, goods, and services provided. In contrast, the 75 trillion figure commonly cited for Russia's natural resources represents the estimated value of its untapped reserves, including oil, gas, coal, timber, and minerals like gold and diamonds. These are two very different measures. GDP is a flow of income over time, with the resource value is a stock wealth that could potentially be extracted over decades or even centuries. All right, but here's the thing. So GDP comes from government spending as one bucket, investment in the country is another bucket, consumption as another bucket, and exports is another bucket, right? So when people buy things from you, when people invest in your country, when the government spends money, and then when the people spend money, right? Okay. So, for example, Malay came in and he said, okay, we need to lower government spending and lower consumption because that's like the two biggest drivers of GDP. That's why they have such bad inflation. We need to increase exports and increase investment in the country, right? So there's like, out of those four quadrants, there's two good ones and two not so good ones in terms of like the health of the country. And so Malay intentionally devalued the currency, right? Short-term inflation goes higher because he devalued the currency, but that caused them to have more valuable, more competitive exports because when your currency devalues, then it's more attractive for countries to buy things from you. That's why the U.S., that's another reason why the U.S. does not export a lot of things. That's why we mostly export money, because it's not competitive with the rest of the world to try to export things from here. It's very expensive for the world to buy things from America, right? So that's a whole other rabbit hole. It's like that's like an economics class that I would have to get out a whiteboard for it. I'm not trying to do a whole case study here. We're just having some chill, casual Sunday night talk. Let's see how many people are still on here. Wow, 2:30. That's what's up, guys. What do you guys think about all this so far? So, yeah, I'm kind of just like having this thought experiment play out. Let's see what's in the chat. I have not asked you guys what you think about this yet. AI mod is always watching, I think. Okay. Russia held down by all the wars and communism that then pillaged by the West in the 1990s. Oh, they've been pillaged by the West well before that, my friend. Wow, I literally forgot to mention the whole point. Wow, I did not complete the weave before, guys. I did not complete the weave. So my whole point in saying that the Tsar was the richest person in the world before the Bolshevik Revolution was to say that the international bankers, like the Rothschilds, they were targeting this guy. So they literally orchestrated the Russian Revolution, something that we'll get into another day because it's fascinating. But they orchestrated the Russian Revolution with the help of the West, like with the help of Wall Street, with the help of the U.S. government, with the help of FDR. They orchestrated the Bolshevik Revolution, so the communist revolution of Russia, have the guy killed, the Tsar, and then just like extract all of his money out of there. And like they didn't leave the money in the hands of the Bolsheviks, that's for sure, because the U.S. was actually subsidizing the communists from the 1920s until the 1990s. Yeah, we were subsidizing the people that we were supposedly fighting a Cold War against. Riddle me that. I mean, it's the simplest thing in the world. I think that it's BS. Like the Cold War was BS from the beginning. We just built this giant industrial base of the military industrial complex. Suddenly didn't have a clear enemy at the end of World War II. And we're like, whoa, man, like this thing's going to shrivel up and die if we don't continue fighting something. So they say like, wow, the Soviet Union is this giant threat. We definitely need to make sure we keep up with them or else they're going to nuke us. Yeah. Which, by the way, I'm pretty sure that we were the ones who gave Russia the ability to build a nuclear weapon. I do not think for 1 second that they built that on their own, because like we'll break this down another day. Like the degree to which they were behind us is mind blowing. And I think it's the same thing with China. Like I always to put this in a super simple example. There's this show called The Boys, one of like the best shows out there today. It's probably like the best, most realistic version of like a superhero science fiction type thing. But the thing is, it's not that much of a stretch. Like it's not a dumb backstory the way they got their powers. Like it's pretty much like they create this thing called compound X or compound V, which if you like inject a kid with it at birth, it gives them superpowers. Sometimes they die, sometimes they get superpowers, right? But the whole scandal of the show, spoiler alert, like tune out if you're watching the show, don't know about this part yet. But the whole point of it is that they keep it a secret that this thing exists. So they act like it's like God-given superpowers, right? When these people just show up with superpowers. Okay, but some parents volunteer for the other kids to basically either get killed during this experiment or end up with superpowers and become a big celebrity. Like, so they the show, in the show, they like create celebrities out of these superheroes, right? So like they sell merch, they have TV shows, so they do like publicity stunts, et cetera, et cetera. It's like Disneyland for superheroes. Like they have this whole brand. They call them soups. Yeah. So, but the point I'm making is that at one point in the show, they're trying to get defense contracts. Like they want to get the big bucks with the military. So they're lobbying to the military. They're saying like, hey, like we could do so much more than the military. Like just give us defense contracts and we'll do whatever you need in terms of like helping out the military. And like, yeah, you guys are kind of weird. I think we're good on that. So what they do is they bring the stuff, Compound V, to the Middle East and give it to like the ISIS of the show, right? So they give the Compound V to the terrorist groups after the military denied them defense contracts. So all of a sudden, you got these people with superpowers in the Middle East, and what does the military do? They come back to the superhero company and say like, man, like all right, like the terrorists have superpowers now because they got Compound V. So all right, yeah, like we'll give you defense contracts. We need your help now, and there you go. So that's essentially what I think Russia gaining the ability to create nuclear weapons was. I think that like after World War II, like a lot of people are like, okay, what do we really need you for anymore? Military industrial complex? We're not fighting anything. Or maybe you could say after the Korean War, but I mean like to go from World War II to the Korean War, like not nearly the same thing. But yeah, once that started coming to a stop, I imagine that there was a big incentive for certain people to make sure that Russia gained the ability to create a nuclear weapon, because that's like I'm sure if you looked at one of those charts that shows how many times like a phrase was used over the decades, like imagine how much they beat the death out of that thing. Like, oh, we need to increase defense spending because like you don't want Russia launching a nuclear weapon. You know, like that's, if you're arguing against defense spending, you're arguing in favor of Russia having nuclear superiority, right? So. And it's like, how do you argue against that, especially with like an ill-informed people who got their news from like 3 different news channels that were all controlled by the government back in the day, right? So that is my assumption for how things played out with the Cold War. Like, I think the Cold War was a stupid, needless thing. We spent trillions of dollars on it. Russia was never even close to us at any point in time. So it was totally ridiculous. All right, so let's see if I could get through some questions without going on a long tangent. Ryan, please don't be human ever again. Spelling is for the calm, cool, and it's a joke. You want peace? What are you, a Russian puppet? Chris is being funny. Oh yeah, Alexa, PB knows this. We did an episode about this a while ago. Get this. You want a fun fact? So who led the committee to expand NATO when the Soviet Union collapsed? So the committee to expand NATO is led by the president of Lockheed Martin. How about that? How about that? Right? Compound V. And yet it does, like, no lie, guys, if you have not watched the show The Boys on Amazon Prime, I recommend it. Like, I mean, if you, not that we have time to kill, because I mean, the term pastime pisses me off. Like, whenever people say, oh, this is a great pastime, like, that's like that poison to me, because like, what, you're trying to pass the time, which time is more valuable than money. So I hate the term pastime. But if you're looking for a reason to, like, if you have a reason that you want to watch a good show, watch the Boys. I mean, like, I love movies, love TV shows. It's like, I haven't gotten to watch a lot lately, but it's it's occasionally a great mental escape, and you appreciate entertainment that's well done, whatever. So I'd put The Boys as like a top, man, it might almost be a top 5 show now, because like when a show could go multiple seasons and get either like stay the same level or get better with each season, then it really moves up the list quick for me. And it's gotten better with each season. Like, the first season's a great season too. It's on season 4 now, I think, going on 5. But like, for example, House of Cards, season 1, 10 out of 10. Season 2, maybe like an 8.5 out of 10. Season 3, flump, goes down to like a 6 or 7. Then it's worse and worse and worse. And like if you graded shows on just the first season alone, season 1 of House of Cards is like a top 3 show, maybe even number 1. But then True Detective season 1 is probably also up there. I'd give the split the hair, and I'd give it to House of Cards because it's like more of my style. I'm not like a huge true crime person. If it's like low impact crime, like for what was it? Serial killers. Like obviously it's like a terrible thing when crimes like that happen, but I'm more interested in like high value, high impact crimes, like what people do on like with the Federal Reserve and central banking, like crimes that affect every single person in the world, right? So my it's the best season 1 TV shows ever. House of Cards, best, and True Detective, Blacklist really fell off, man. What would you say is the best TV shows ever in general, but then shows that specifically have a great season 1 and then fall off after? Because I think like one of the strongest weights, and this is why I think Ozark is my number 1 of all time, because it stuck the landing. So many shows failed to stick the landing. Like, so not only did Ozark get better with every season, but it freaking stuck the landing. Like it made sense. It wasn't a stretch. It wasn't a letdown. Like so many shows either try too hard or they just don't know how to end the thing and they drag it out. Like, so it did not feel like an extra minute of forced TV. It didn't feel incomplete. So it hit on all cylinders. Like some shows, like the ending doesn't make sense, like The Sopranos, or it's kind of incomplete, like Breaking Bad, like where there's so many more questions to be asked. And like I hate when people say stuff like, oh, it's up for interpretation, it's artistic. Like, no, make it clear cut. Like, what's the ending? Like, where do we end up? Like finish the story, stick the landing. So I put Ozark as number 1. I've said that over and over again because it hit all those simple things, like of course the requirements, but sticking the landing is such a big thing for me for TV shows. And I overall like shows more than movies because like it makes me sad in a movie when I see like somebody who just crushes a performance out of the park and it's like a great story, but you only get 90 minutes of that forever. Like, what is it? Obviously The Dark Knight falls into that category, and we know Heath Ledger died, but I mean, if like, let's say he didn't die, like, I would have wanted more from that character. And you could say, yeah, like the next sequel or the third version of that. But it's different. It's different when you let years go by and like the way that how long a movie takes to make. Like in a show, things are so close together in terms of like time of filming it that like you really stay in touch with that character and see them in different situations the more that time goes by in the timeline of the show. Like what was it? No Country for Old Men. What was that guy's name? I know we're really going down a rabbit hole now. Let's see. No, you'll know what I'm talking about. Yeah, here we go. This show right here, or this movie right here. What was the guy's name? Javier Bardem played Anton Chigurh. Yeah, if you haven't seen this movie, like this dude, insane performance, like acting like a psychopath. But I want more of this character. Like this would have been a much cooler 10-part TV show than a 2-hour movie. Because I don't even like to sit for 2 hours and watch something. I think an hour is perfect. Give me 10 hours split up. I prefer that all day to a 2-hour movie. I don't know about you. That's a good poll question. Let's see what you guys think. 10-hour TV show or a 2-hour movie? Let's see. Let me fire that off and see what you guys said. What is better? What is better, 10-hour TV show or? Come on. Here we go. Poll question. 10-hour, 10-part TV show. 2-hour movie. I feel like I'm gonna lose here. My attention span is lower than 30 minutes nowadays. I know. Same here, Chris. Too much to do in life. I watched enough TV in my 20s, 30s. I know, guys. I haven't watched a lot either. Chris Bledsoe. What did they talk about yesterday, Steve? I haven't watched that yet. Oh, Fargo is a great show, LMG. Yeah, but that's another one though, where like season 1 is fantastic, but then season 2 is like a whole different show, and then season 3 it's like a whole different universe. Literally, I think like they have like aliens in it and stuff. So yeah, based off true events, real stories. Yeah, Silicon Valley told the truth. So is Silicon Valley like a worthwhile show to watch? I thought it was like just a comedy show. Oh, geez, Steve, you tripping? NPCs, immaculate characters in shows I've noticed. The Cold War was 100% necessary for CIA, MKUltra, special projects to get funding and approval to focus on secret weapons and sensor. So are you in favor of the Cold War, Seb Murdoch? Because did anything good come from those programs you mentioned? Yes, Greenspan, read books. Always read books. The Penguin just had an incredible first season. I have not watched that yet. Is that like the Penguin from Batman? I accidentally ate too many turds in the TV show bag that I don't watch. I feel yeah. There's some TV shows that don't rot the brain. But all right, guys. I have not done like anything that I need to do this weekend because I unexpectedly went to CPAC all day yesterday. Got left at like 5 a.m, got back at like midnight. And that was after like a week of barely sleeping because of freaking rooming with Humberto at Brazil. Yeah, so I'm out of it this week. But still want to stream every night that I could. Let's get back to the normal routine tomorrow night and let's hit the ground running strong. So gonna aim to do 8:30 every night this week. Oh wait, tomorrow night. I might be on the PBD podcast this week, but tomorrow night, but we'll see about that. So anyway, let's plan for 8:30 tomorrow night, and I'll make a post if that gets pushed back. But yeah, we'll do every night this week, of course. Like my deepest apologies for having to miss some nights this week, but obviously I have a job and I have responsibilities that needs to come first to this, but we're still gonna hit the ground strong this week, hit the ground running this week. All right. So love you guys as always. And I will see you tomorrow night. Connect with me on Connect if you want to talk about anything, if you want to suggest topics, if you want to collab on stuff, whatever, if you want to get on the show. So you know where to find me. Much love. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
You know, we talk about the deep state, we talk about the globalists, inflation versus deflation.
Well, I mean,
Here at Mar-a-Lago. I'm baffled that this isn't front page news.
Do you guys support a specific political party, or do you dislike both of them?
Oh, it worked like a charm on you guys.
Let's go, Brandon.